remind you that this press conference will take place without any flash photography, please. So welcome to this press conference. Our guests have now joined us, and I'll introduce them. We have the translator at the far end of the table and co-producer. Thank you for that piece of information. Khaled Mouzanar, who we knew as a musician. He composed the music for all of Nadine Labaki's film before working on this film. And in addition to being the musician, he's the producer. On my left, Yordanos Shifarov, who you've no doubt recognized. She is an actress. She plays the part of Rahil, the mother of Jonas. The character is Ethiopian. She went to Lebanon at the age of 20 and was found by the casting director in 2016. To the left of the director, you will have recognized the smile and this extraordinary look. Zain al-Rafea, the real hero of this odyssey. He's called Zain, like the character who comes from Syria and who went to Lebanon, and he also was found by the casting director in 2016. You will have understood that these two actors have not played in any other films. And of course, I'd like to introduce Nadine Labaki, who's a child of Cannes, because as of 2005, she was in residence for a writing studio. She wrote Caramel, presented in 2007 at the Director's Fortnight. For you, Yordanos, could you talk to us about this experience, the shooting of the film? Was it difficult? Is this something that was complicated? Was there a particularly difficult scene?
Okay, merci كثير أول شيء.
Elle vous remercie beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
صورنا بالسجن كثير صعب.
Ce qu'on a filmé en prison était le plus difficile.
What we filmed in prison was the most difficult part for me.
لأنه كلت حدا يعرف هيدي الحقيقة مش فيلم. هيدي حياتي أنا.
Elle veut remercier Nadine.
I want to thank Nadine
Qui lui a permis de raconter sa propre histoire.
because I was thus able to tell my own story through this character.
كثير صعب. لأنه وقت بالسجن عم نصور وقت بشوف رفقاتي كنت صعب علي. كنت عن جد عم ببكي مش كرمال الفيلم.
Quand elle pleurait dans le film, c'était pour de vrai.
When my character cried in the film, it was really me crying. It was really true.
لأنه ما عندي كنت ورقة.
Après avoir tourné la scène d'arrestation.
After shooting the scene when I was arrested, 3 days later, I was really arrested and I experienced exactly the same thing.
بس بتمنى للناس اللي بيحضروا هيدا الفيلم يعرفوا إنه حقيقة. بتمنى لممثلين غير مثل نادين بيكشفوا حقيقة. هاي حقيقة بالنسبة لي حياتي عم بعيشها بسبب الشغل ولا الحبس كل شيء حياتي أنا.
Je voudrais vous dire.
I'd like to say that everything you saw is my real life.
من فيلم ومن حياتي شخصيا بس لأنه أنا ما جبت ولد.
La seule différence, c'est que.
The only difference is that I haven't yet had a baby.
Aussi, Yordanos n'avait pas de papier pendant.
Yordanos didn't have an ID card. She'd been living illegally in the country for a long time. What really happened, the prison where we shot that scene, well, she was very moved when she went there. We worked in a real prison, and she met some of her real friends who, when we were shooting the film, had truly been thrown into prison. She was deeply moved. And as she said, this was her own personal experience, practically. That's why it is also real and true in the film.
بس أنا وقت تعرفت عليهم انبسطت كتير لأنه قصة الزين شخصيتي وقت طفلتي ما كنتي بحياتي اجتمعت مع حدا. بالتصوير كنت كتير مبسوطة كلهم كاستينج كنت عم بحسسوني كأنه أنا عندي عائلة عن جد بدي أشكرهم كتير.
Pendant le tournage, j'étais très heureuse.
During the shooting, I was very happy. I was so well treated. They treated me as though I was part of the family.
بعدين بعد ما سجنت بدي أشكر لمستر خالد وهني زبطوا لي ورقة تبعي ما عندي ورقة هني طلعوني من حبس لهيك ميرسي كتير.
Quand je me suis fait en prison.
When I was arrested, I spent 2 weeks in prison. I'd like to thank Khaled, who ensured that I would be released as quickly as possible and could therefore start shooting the film again. And I was arrested because I had no ID cards. I think it's very stupid to be thrown into prison because you don't have a piece of paper. It's not because you've killed someone, it's not because you've stolen something or hurt someone, it's just because you don't have a piece of paper. It's quite disgusting.
Bonjour, Gabriela Bravo.
Gabriela Bravo from Chile. I wanted to know your views on poverty and abject poverty. How did you manage to portray this without becoming maudlin in a way? Well, I think it's because we did a huge amount of very detailed research work. It's really tough. It's not easy to find a happy balance. We did a huge amount of research work, and we truly wanted to depict the truth. We didn't want to intervene in any way. We wanted to intervene as little as possible in these people's lives. Maybe that enabled me to find just this happy balance. Basically, I felt I was in the service of what I was seeing. I was there as an observer. Together with my script writers, we tried to intervene as little as possible. We didn't want to fantasize things. The question kept cropping up. Would this have really happened in truth? Would this have taken place in this same manner? That's what guided us when we were filming the film. We tried, in fact, to really stand back and not intervene in any way. These people are so very true and real, and they are the ones who really imposed themselves on us in the film. There was a very sophisticated balancing act in terms of fiction and reality. For example, the scenes at court, when one of the characters spits at me in the face. I thought to myself, well, that's what she really thinks about me. That's what she's experienced in life. She's not just saying what was written down in the script. She's saying what she really feels. She started to speak out. And what she said was her truth. It's this play between fiction and reality that perhaps enabled me not to just display some kind of maudlin poverty. Belgian TV, thank you for the film. Following on what you said, the scene in the court, and that's perhaps the scene that's most contrived compared with others. I imagine it was difficult to shoot this scene in the same style as the rest of the film. But was it legally plausible for this child to sue his parents, or was that a sort of a fable? Yes, I think this is a fable to a degree. It's very symbolical. A child in life could never sue his or her parents for the simple reason that you can't sue your guardian, so to speak, and the guardians are the mother and the father, so legally speaking, it would be impossible to sue them. A child cannot sue his own parents. In the film, it's very symbolical, this scene, obviously, but we had to add this symbolic dimension. This is why he calls the media when he's in prison. That makes everything a bit more plausible. It's via the media that which turned it into a real scoop that things look believable. Of course, it's a double-edged situation. Sometimes it's positive. It could also be viewed as negative. However, the TV took an interest in the child, and it's thanks to that that he was able to raise his voice, and the media in general, of course. By making this phone call, the media latched onto the story, and thus the child was able to be heard in court, thanks to pressure exerted by the media, by TV, on the court.
Hi, I'm Ruby from Australia. I just wanted to know if you can talk a little bit about the editing, because I thought the editing was amazing, and the process of the editing.
The editing process took a very long time. We've been editing for the past year and a half, and I have an amazing family. We ended up creating a family around us that were just, giving everything. We were at the last stages of the editing. We were practically working 24 hours, like by shifts. So we are able to finish the edit on time, and it's a very difficult process because we had 500 hours of rushes. So we had to dig into these 500 hours of rushes. What was the most intense? What was the most interesting? And then the first version of the film was of 12 hours. We had a 12-hour film in the beginning that we could, you can watch. It was difficult to watch, but you can watch. And then slowly it started shrinking, and then we ended up having a 2-hour film. And we did a lot of also what we call test screenings. So we can understand more what is the perception of somebody who sees the film for the first time. It was very important for me that I listen to how people perceive that film, because when we are doing a film, we are so much into the process that there's no way that we have the distance that we need in order to know. I mean, I will never be as pure, as fresh as somebody who's watching this film for the first time. It's impossible for me to have this kind of distance. So it was very important for me to do those test screening. We did a lot of those. I mean, the crew at the end had enough of listening to everybody giving their opinion about the film. But it was very important for me to listen to lots of different opinions, lots of different people coming from lots of different backgrounds to understand the perception. And also, it was difficult to just find the right dosage. And one of my editors is actually here, Laure, and she was Laure Gardet, who worked on a lot of French films also. And my other editing partner, Constantine Brock, who's unfortunately not here, they gave everything. I was so blessed. I'm blessed with my family, with my. It's not a crew for me. It's a family. What we've created, it just is very rare. Of people just giving everything for this film because they believe in it.
We actually did the film at home.
Yeah, practically.
Practically at home, and we did everything from From the production to the post-production, everything was done home.